got a new expansion. Madness at the Darkmoon Faire is going to be our third and final expansion for 2020. And this has a little bit of a twist. We've got a return of some familiar faces. Are they full faces? I mean, they're mostly just eyes and mouths and tentacles. Like, do they have
familiar
one face?
parts of the facial structure? It's familiar facial elements. I don't know. Yes, it's the territory they are navigating. It was so Whispers of the Old Gods. That was years ago. The first set in Standard, because Standard didn't exist before then. And the trailer, Joss, you described it great back in the day as Disney evil. Yes. Like it had that adorable but definitely a little creepy vibe. This is more like Tim Burton creepy. Yeah. Like a Beetlejuice sort of thing. Because the trailer was very well done and the song was excellent. But it was like on the verge of unsettling.
It very much was. I thought that was just me, but they lost the cutesy vibe, I feel like. Even when in the reveal video, Dave very specifically said, like, give me something like soft and cuddly and like cute, right? Like there's got to be a 1/1 something that just, can't harm anybody. And even like the little Darkmoon rabbit was all like red glowy eyes and I kill everything. Yes. And yeah.
It definitely, when you started with the Old Gods, we started with the Old Gods, and the Old Gods are like the big bad evil. Okay, make them fun. But now we're starting with a carnival. Okay, make it evil. Yeah. And so it's just a question of starting point, ending point. I love the trailer. I thought it was great, but it definitely was going for a different vibe, and I think it hit all of the it vibes of the evil clown sort of thing. This is the evil clown expansion.
Yeah, it definitely hit those kind of key points, I think, and really gave us that vibe. There was one point in the trailer specifically where it mentioned like, oh, maybe you think you're dreaming or something. And at that point, the music was almost like just off cadence or something, or just off key. Like there was something really wrong and unsettling before it kind of picked up again. And I was like, this is just making me uncomfortable, which I think is what they were aiming for. And we haven't really seen Hearthstone go that hard in that direction. And obviously we haven't seen all the cards. We don't know how all of this is going to play out. But it's like with Scholomance, they had this like undertone of like, Kel'Thuzad's doing some weird stuff. But really, there wasn't anything that was like super evil, bad grr. And this seems like they're just like, no, we are gonna lean into this hard. So I think this is the most evil, the most corrupted that we've ever seen Hearthstone really get. So that is also our new keyword, corrupt. And
nice segue.
Yeah, thanks. And this is kind of interesting. It reminded me a whole lot of Spellstones, because you basically have to do a thing and then the card in your hand gets upgraded. So if you have a corrupt card in your hand and you play a card of a higher mana cost, then the corrupt card in your hand becomes the corrupted version of itself, which is some sort of more powerful iteration. So it could have more stats. It could have a more powerful battle cry. It also gets new art, which I thought was a pretty cool touch. Again, much like the Spellstones, when you upgraded them, they got more and more Spellstony. So, yeah.
Spellstones?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, like to give an example, there's a paladin card that's 3 mana, make three Silverhand recruits, and then if you play a card that costs more than 3, 4 and up, then it corrupts in your hand. It goes all like, I'm sure, purple and tentacles and stuff, and then it stays a 3 mana card, but it makes 5 Silverhand recruits. So it's
that's
you get
key.
to upgrade these early games.
Yeah, the corrupted versions don't change mana costs, so you can play the cards in their non-corrupted form, much like you could play your Spellstone in a non-upgraded form. But then you're kind of paying more mana for a less powerful effect, because like the one that they showed, I feel like there was the elephant. I can't remember exactly what the card was called, but it seemed like half decent, but I probably wouldn't actively use a deck slot for it type of a card. Like, it wasn't overwhelmingly terrible, but I don't think it was powerful enough to kind of take a deck slot unless you corrupted it, and then it became crazy. Then it was like I think an 8/8 with rush and something else for 5 mana. It was just, it was crazy in its corrupted form.
Yeah, it turns from a 5 mana 4/4 rush into a 5 mana 8/8 rush. And these cards, mechanics like this that are looking to reward flexibility often are really relevant in arena and can be relevant. Certain ones will be pushed. They will find some class specific cards. Some class will be really good at this, and they'll get some better versions.
Like, probably, honestly, first thing that pops into my head is Druid. Like, who can get ahead to use big mana cards way before anybody else and then get a big payoff for it? Like, Druid. That's where this
Druid
is going.
Specifically. And Scholomance was the set that really pushed low cost stuff. And so it looks like this set is pushing high cost stuff, whereas Ashes pushed green stuff. So it got small, big, and green. And contrary to Kermit, it was easy being green, but it's less easy now.
Yes. So we are getting also Old God, I guess they're called artifacts? Or wait, are they called? Hang on. Okay, so we're getting Old Gods again, kind of. And they all have like, they're similar to their previous iterations, but also different. So I kind of want to talk about those gods. That we have some other expansion information, but I'm in a card talking mood right now. So I think we're going to talk about the cards. And the first one is Cthulhu, and we've had many iterations, well, 2 iterations of Cthulhu in the past. And this one is just, this is weird. Like, weird good. I mean, he's kind of a combination of the 2 previous iterations, because first Cthulhu, you buffed him up, and then when you played him, his battle cry was deal his attack randomly to enemies, right? And then in his second iteration, he was very much a combo card, and he was like game-ending combo things. So this is kind of a smooshing together of both those ideas, because this new iteration of Cthulhu breaks into pieces, and you have to put him back together to get a big crazy effect. So each of his pieces, it splits at the beginning of the game. So you have to draw all 4 of those pieces and then play them. They are 5 mana spells, each one with a unique effect. So you get Cthulhu's eye, his heart, his body, and his maw, and each of those 5 mana spells does something different. So you deal 7 damage randomly split among enemies, so very arcane missiles on steroids. You get deal 3 damage to all minions, so like Hellfire without hitting your face. You get a 6/6 taunt, or to just destroy a minion, like straight up 5 mana, just kill something. So once you have cast all of those, then you get Cthulhu, but he gets shuffled into your deck, which at first I thought you just got him in your hand, and I was like, oh my God.
No.
That would be too much.
Yes. And what Cthulhu does, the reason that it does not get added to your deck, or does not get added to your hand, is because the Cthulhu the Shattered, which is the assembled version, is a 10 mana 6/6 legendary. Battlecry, deal 30 damage split between all enemies.
Yeah.
30. That's a lot.
That is so much damage. So it's very similar. It does give me like Cthulhu vibes, because in the previous iteration, when he first came out in Whispers of the Old Gods, you had to, play things over the course of the game in order to power him up and make him as big as possible. And, and then once you played him, he had a variable amount of damage that he did, but it was all based on his attack. So now his damage is no longer variable. What you have to do is no longer variable, but you have to do things over the course of the game, and you have to draw him in order to actually get the benefit. So it's similar but different. And so you're going to have to spend 30 mana over the course of the game in order to get this effect, which reminds me of that. It was a Warlock card, and I'm totally blanking on it now. Rin. Yes, Rin.
Yes. Very much so. So a lot of the conversation, if you are newer to the game, we're going to be doing a lot of back in my day because this set is very much designed to evoke resonance of previous Hearthstone expansions. Whispers of the Old Gods, I guess, was 2015?
I believe
5 years ago?
so. Yeah,
Yes,
because we've had, I think that's how many standard years we've had now.
So we're going to be referring to that set 2016. Okay, 4 years. Good. Only 4 years. The vibe of that set was these 4 big old gods and then corrupted versions of cards you knew that were they were twisted and made different, but still were recognizable. And I imagine this set will play with that theme a lot. But in addition, Hearthstone is old enough now that previous Hearthstone cards are nostalgic. And so this set is kind of doing what Rise of Shadows did with calling back the characters we knew, of calling back to the old gods. The madness of the Darkmoon Faire is if someone got corrupted by the old gods and also built an amusement park, these 4 legendaries are meant to be like Yogg-Saron the ride, Cthulhu the roller coaster sort of thing. So they'll be similar to the old cards, and so we'll be talking about it a lot. And they're referencing older designs. Rin was a card where you played it and it died, and you got a 5-mana spell that summoned a little demon, then a bigger demon, then a bigger one, then a bigger one, and after 5 of those, you get a 10-mana card that ate your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
And this is very similar in execution. If you don't like Priest, be glad they printed this because any attrition-y deck hates to see this. But it's slow, and you have to draw all the pieces, and it takes a while. It's going to be fun when it sees play, but it takes a lot of work to set up, and the pieces aren't competitively costed, as opposed like maybe the body, the 6/6 taunt. The rest are on par with effects that we would generally pay less for or not include in the deck. Like Maw is just assassinate, and we don't play that card.
Yeah. But I do think it is interesting, and again, this is where it kind of gives me those Mecha'thun vibes, right? Because it is going to take a long time. It's going to take I feel like we're just going to see Cthulhu Warlock again, right? Because they're going to want to draw through their deck. They're going to want to get everything out there. They're going to probably want to be controlling things, which Ma and even I definitely give me control vibes. The taunt allows you to live a little bit longer because it's a 6/6 they got to get through. Obviously the heart dealing the 3 damage to all minions, like I said, is very Hellfire, but you don't have to pay the price with your face. So maybe not competitively costed, but I think would definitely fit into some sort of control combo Warlock variant. So I'm down for this because Warlock has not been in a great place lately, and I have not been the biggest fan of Warlock over the course of the show, but some of my favorite Warlock decks have been the Cthulhu Warlock when it was in standard, like the Mecha'thun Warlock with all the crazy shenanigans, play the giant combo, use your health at the end, basically playing solitaire, let's be honest. But, sometimes solitaire's fun.
And if you've ever played solitaire with someone looking over your shoulder, you know that solitaire is a 2-player game.
Exactly.
Because someone said, well, why didn't you move that 6 over? And it's like, Janet, I didn't ask you. It's okay.
Damn it,
but
Janet.
Yeah, and seriously, are we doing Rocky Horror now? Because we can do Rocky Horror. We'll save the listeners the trouble. But yeah, and also it reminds me a little bit, if we go even further back before Standard in League of Explorers, this reminds me of Elise Control Warrior, where you had 29 removal spells and then just Elise, which turned your hand and deck into random legendaries. You could easily just fill your deck with stuff that kills stuff and card draw, and then just play the pieces as you get them because you're controlling the game, and then boom, 30 damage.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so the next card that we're going to talk about, I'm glad Garrett's not here for this week because I can just picture his reaction right now. The fact that this card is going to be, this next card makes me think that you just need to start with putting bans in competitive Hearthstone, because this to me is just absolutely nutty, over the top nutty. But the iteration we're getting this time of Yogg-Saron, once you play 10 spells over the course of a game, you can then play Yogg, which is going to remind all of you old god players very much of how Yogg used to work, which was he got powered up as you played spells over the course of the game. Then you'd play him and craziness ensued. Well, this is next level Yogg madness, which fits with the name of the expansion, I guess. But when you play him after you've played 10 spells, you will spin the wheel of Yogg. I can see the praise Yogg memes now because there are 6 options on this wheel. 5 of the 6 have a 19% chance of triggering. One option has a 5% chance of triggering. Now, the 19% options are to destroy all other minions and have Yogg gain their stats, to fill the board, both sides, with random minions, but yours have rush, gain control of 3 enemy minions, so like mind control on steroids, fill your hand with spells that are 0 mana, but for this turn only, or cast a spell for each spell you've cast in this game. And you're like, well, Joss, those sound like powerful, but not like esports ending. Like, why the doom and gloom? And the doom and gloom is around that pesky 5% chance that you've got to cast Rod of Roasting. Now, those of you who may not be familiar with Rod of Roasting because it has not existed in Standard, Rod of Roasting just casts Pyroblast until a player dies. So there is a 5% chance to coin flip your match. Hat, what say you about Yogg and his wheel?
All right, so is it soapbox o'clock? I gotta.
You have the floor/box.
Okay. Ooh, Yogg box o'clock. I like that. All right. So first of all, the tone that I am targeting this episode, and Joss, I think we're on the same page. I am cautiously optimistic about everything they have announced today. If everything they announced is well executed and appropriately iterated based on results, everything announced today is a net positive for Hearthstone, for the vast majority of the game's players. A lot of cool stuff announced, new things to do, cool new cards, good vibe, the new mode is really fun. Everything is just going to be a question of the execution and the iteration. If something is a little off, how do they fix it? What's their end game here? Have they thought about the context of it all? For those of you that weren't around back in the day, Yogg-Saron is a very interesting card. The original version is a 10 mana 7/5 legendary as a neutral. For every spell you've cast this game, cast a random spell. And it seemed really variant, and at first players didn't play it any mind. Well, casual players loved it, and really everybody had a lot of fun with it first.
Right? Like, who doesn't like shenanigans?
It was just goofy.
Yeah.
It was a trolled-in video that you played.
Mm-hmm.
But then people realized at the competitive level, all right, if my deck has probably about half spells, then what Yogg does at around 10 is kill stuff and draw cards. Now, killing stuff and drawing cards is a pretty good way to win Hearthstone. Sometimes you would low roll and get Astral Communion, you would lose. And sometimes you would crazy high roll and get Call of the Wild and kill your opponent. And there was a lot of variance in between, but it was generally pretty good for the person that played it. And it started getting added to more and more and more decks until it decided a winter championship. Monsanto versus Dude 7597, the Yogg herd around the world of 7 spells that decided a finals match to determine who was going to advance to the championship,
to the world championship
for that season. Yeah. It was a little bit too much, so they nerfed it. They made it so that when it dies, it stops casting, made the card much, much worse. They have tried other versions of this.
It was going to, or it used to, in its first iteration, if it died, it just kept going. So if Twisting Nether happened or anything else that would kill, if Yogg targeted himself with a kill command and you had a beast on the board or something, then it would die, but the spells would keep going. So they changed it so that he would stop, and then he pretty much was relegated out of real competitive play. He got much, much, much worse.
And they called it a bug fix, but it was a change in functionality. They also made his spells overload you. Because for the original iteration, it didn't do that. And Broad on stream actually said it's a little weird that it doesn't overload you. But they didn't fix it until they also nerfed him on purpose. So it was kind of a double nerf, even though one of them was described as a bug fix. And that's the behavior that you still see today. But also you look back from a competitive standpoint, and again, I want to make sure I'm clear, these cards are fun and goofy.
Yes.
But from a competitive standpoint, Yogg got nerfed, Puzzle Box got Dragoncaster nerfed, and then Solarian Prime got nerfed. They have tried this design 3 times. They have nerfed it 3 times, and now they're printing a 4th one. And in addition to this announcement having, it wasn't intended to have anything for esports, but as I said on Twitter, if you get told ahead of time there are no presents under the tree, Christmas doesn't feel great anyways. It's if you know you're getting nothing and other people get things, watching them open their presents doesn't feel good regardless of the advance notice. And so when you see a card like this, if you're a competitive player who has generally received no information, you don't even know what the competitive format is next year, you get a patch hitting today for your event tomorrow, and then they print a new Yogg after the day they nerf a Yogg.
Yeah.
They nerfed Solarian Prime today and then showed us a new Yogg. It is hard to maintain positive morale as a competitive player when the day they nerf an effect for being too random, they print a better version of a previous random effect that's stronger.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because this just is, it is crazy. It is stronger. Like you can technically cast, or like you can, the spells generated, like there's basically original Yogg is in here, right?
It's
like,
one of the 5 options.
Yeah, it's one of the 5 options. Sorry, that's what I was trying to get at. And then also you have the option of like being your own Yogg and filling your hand with 0 mana spells, which means you get to decide the target. So it's like these spells could still all be cast in one turn, except for you get to choose where they go. So no more pyroblast to your own face. Like you could just choose targets. Like that option to me seems ridiculously strong.
It's a better evocation, which is the other card they nerfed today.
Yes, exactly. I don't know why they keep doing this 0 mana shenanigans, and that is a whole other issue because we have a lot to get through today. But yeah, it is a 1 turn only thing, but those spells don't go away. So I don't know.
It's fun and goofy. The message being sent by this card is bigger than it seems.
Yeah.
And again, this card looks fun. It looks entertaining. And this card being printed says that they are not prioritizing Hearthstone competition as a major thing.
Yeah.
And I understand that seems like a big leap, but Twitter is, well, I mean, Twitter is Twitter. And there are some ups and downs to the Hearthstone social media scene. I think that if you look at the players that are content creators and are more casually engaged with the game, or even just not people looking to grind a game, they're pretty happy with today's announcement. And I think that both of us are too. But for the specific slice, for the 1% that is not being designed for, this card is a clear message of, we are not designing for you, and this game is not intending to focus on the competitive scene.
Yeah.
And that message was already somewhat clear, but this makes it clearer.
This drove it home.
And
yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with the game choosing what it focuses on. There's nothing wrong with the designers making that choice. But if you know someone that was targeted by this choice of saying, this game is not for you, don't be surprised they don't feel great about the announcement today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also got a new version of the other 2 gods. So we got N'Zoth, which is going to, much less variants, still some variants, but much less crazy than Cthulhu and Yogg. So N'Zoth is going to, much like his previous iteration, which would res a board full of death rattles, or would res death rattle minions that had died this game. This one's going to res 1 minion of each minion type, which means he's more of, instead of a death rattle deck, he's more of like a menagerie style. So you're going to want to play like 1 really powerful dragon, 1 really powerful beast, 1 really powerful totem.
Just dribble into a Malgadon, you'll be fine.
There you go. So it does, it gives me so many battlegrounds vibes, just because that's where I think of menagerie builds are in battlegrounds, right? So it's an interesting design, I think. And I like that it plays around with his style in that he's doing the res thing like he used to, but you're not so pigeonholed into a very specific type of deck.
Yeah, it's weird. Menagerie constructed is not a thing that's really been tried before.
No.
I assume something will synergize with this, and I don't know what it will be, but there's no way they print this without giving it some support in the set, because you're not playing Hench Clan Hag and getting back 2/1/1s. You're not doing that. So yeah. I wonder what support they're giving it, but they have to have something in the set for it, and I expect that deck to be super cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool too. And especially after playing a lot of Battlegrounds and like having the different menagerie cards, because we had menagerie cards again going back to previous sets and previous standard years and all the stuff that's over in Wild now. Like we have had menagerie cards before that buff different minion types and, buff, a dragon, a beast, and whatever. But they never really saw a lot of competitive play. Like not even competitive, but even just like ladder play. Like they just weren't that powerful. So I'm looking forward to seeing like, oh my God, like Curator. Oh man, like
Curator did see play. That was a lot
Curator
of
saw
fun.
play, yeah. But then I was thinking more of like the Menagerie Buffy cards, which we have, did see a revival over on the Battleground side of things. Were in constructed, but nobody ever really played them. So yeah, Curator was the only thing that really kind of, what Curator did was a 4/6 taunt that would draw one of each type from your deck. So it was an interesting design, and the card draw, even if you only drew one minion out of your deck, it was still good enough to see play. So I'm assuming there will probably be more of these like reimaginings, I guess. Like I would not be surprised if one of the neutral legendaries was like, I don't know, like the Curator of Tentacles.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would not want that job.
Title.
No.
No. Imagine having to choose tentacles for firmness. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Just
There's nowhere good that goes. But also, I could easily see this being like the shaman mechanic of playing around with amalgams. They could make it a class specific thing, much like there are some neutral cards that are really, really good in specific classes.
Mm-hmm.
I could easily see there being a class mechanic that kicks this into overdrive, but I would love to see a Curator return.
Yeah.
So that's Karazhan, which we'd be crossing the streams with lore.
That is true. And then finally, the fourth old god that we will be seeing back is Yogg-Saron, and he will add copies of all the corrupted cards you've played this game to your hand. And we have another 0 cost this turn issue. Well, I mean, maybe not issue. So what he used to do was pull a minion out of your deck and bring it into the battlefield, which then led to these Yogg-Saron decks would very much play like him and one or two other minions, and that was basically it. And oh man, Barnes, it was basically like Barnes and him, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna blame that one on Barnes. It's very easy to blame things on Barnes. Yogg-Saron was pretty tough to play most of the time when it was around in standard, just because it was so chunky and it was recruit before recruit existed.
Yeah.
This version it's like you have to work pretty hard at it, because you have to corrupt a bunch of cards by playing big stuff, and then you have to play the corrupted cards, and then you have to get them back and want those back. Maybe you get back in 8/8 rush and 5/1/1s, but that's, it's not super exciting yet. We'll see what other corruption synergy there is, because there's going to be something. But when we look at big mana cheat, when we look at a card like Yogg-Saron Unleashed, you play it and then stuff happens. This takes a lot more setup and a lot more work. I think it's a bit of a healthier design space, but it's going to depend on how quickly we can get those corrupted cards played, how impactful they are, and, well, if we can survive till 10 mana.
Yeah, I feel like it would be... I think it's going to take a lot to get corrupted cards actually on board, but I think once you start the whole corrupted chain, then there's a chance it could be really super powerful. Like we'll have to wait and see what the other corrupted cards look like, and if you can have, because obviously like the Paladin one is Paladin specific. So I wonder if there are going to be a lot of neutral cards to support this, or if it's going to be the kind of thing where, like it'll be very class specific, and some classes will be good at playing Yogg-Saron and some will be bad. I don't know, but I expect there will be some neutrals to support him, because it would be really weird if he was just totally unsupported except by class cards, because then you would be sending all the classes down the corruption road, right? Because you'd have to give every class 2 to 3 corrupted cards if there were no neutrals. And that takes up a big chunk of that class design. So we'll see how it goes. But those are the 4 old gods. There were some other cards revealed on the stream, but we're not going to go into all of them today. We'll do full card reviews in the coming weeks because there's just so much to talk about. But one final card that we are going to talk about is the login reward. And this is Silas Darkmoon. He's very much like the, oh my God, I'm totally blanking on him now. Oh my God. What was the login reward for the last one?
Transfer student.
Oh no, it wasn't transfer student. It was the legendary, the 4/7 cast your spells dude.
Oh, Kael'thas.
Kael'thas,
Yeah,
thank you.
Kael'thas for ashes, transfer student for skull elements. Yeah.
I kept thinking, I kept thinking the wrong KT. Anyways, doesn't matter. Yeah.
Not confusing at all.
So Silas Darkmoon is a 7 mana 4/4, not a 4 mana 7/7, a 7 mana 4/4 who has a battle cry that says, choose a direction to rotate all minions. So if you guys played the Tavern Brawl this week, and this isn't the first time we've had this Tavern Brawl, but if you played the Tavern Brawl, you're very familiar with this mechanic. It lets you basically steal something good or give them something bad. You get to choose the direction you're going to rotate all the minions, and that includes Silas himself. So when you play Silas, if he's your only minion, he's going to the other side of the board, but he's only a 4/4, so maybe that's not so bad if you can steal their Tyrion, just, for instance.
Have you seen the wild combo yet?
God, I have not seen the wild combo, and now I'm really worried.
Okay, wild is already a format where if you want to play 0 mana 8/8s and then take an extra turn, you can do that. This is not on that level. But what you do is, as Odd Warrior, you gain a bunch of armor over 30, and then you play Soulbound Ash Tongue, the 1 mana 1/4 that whenever it takes damage, the player takes damage. You give it to your opponent and you shield slam it for 30.
That's the kind of weird, crazy shenanigans that I want to see happening over in Wild. That's a lot of setup to try to gain 30 armor, although obviously Odd Warriors can do that much faster than any other warrior, but still, those are fun shenanigans, I feel like.
I'm glad that kind of thing is in the game in Wild, because that seems like the sort of place where 9 mana and work the entire game for it to kill the opponent is goofy fun.
Yes, exactly. So you do get that logging in as of right now. It was added with patch 18.6. You can play it right now. So Silas Darkmoon is now in the pool of Hearthstone cards. Now, does that count for Masters Tour as well?
They will not be allowing Silas for Masters Tour, much like for Scholomance, they didn't let you play Transfer Student when it came out the same week.
Okay.
They will, it is standard legal, but for the purpose of the event, they are disallowing.
Right.
Silas
Okay.
Darkmoon.
I was like, because that literally just popped into my head as I was like, is this yet another boo too competitive? But it's not. Okay, fair enough. So available to be played right now, but not in Masters Tour this weekend. So we have basically all of the pre-purchase bundles that we normally have, though they have dropped in price since last time. So there is the smaller pre-purchase bundle, which will give you 45 Madness of the Darkmoon Faire cards, along with 1 random legendary, non-golden legendary, the N'Zoth card back, and early access to the new game mode that we're going to talk about in a moment. And then there is the Mega Bundle, which is 80 Madness of the Darkmoon Faire cards, 5 Golden Madness card packs, 1 random Golden Legendary, the playable N'Zoth Warlock Hero, which looks really cool, actually. So as a Warcraft player, in the final expansion, or in the final patch of this expansion, we went up against N'Zoth, and this looks just like the N'Zoth fight. There's even 5 little adventurers in the foreground of his picture going up against him. And it's giving me BFA raid vibes. So this hero portrait's pretty cool.
Funny how we defeated him, but the corruption just moved to the other game.
Right?
It just came over to Hearthstone.
You can just never escape tentacles. That's what you need to learn, is that there always will be old gods and void lords, and you can't escape the madness. That's the lesson to learn from the Blizzard universe.
And if you can't escape the tentacles, you better curate them.
Exactly.
Very important.
So you're also going to get Battlegrounds perks from the Mega Bundle, and again, that access to the duels mode. So the smaller bundle is going to set you back $40. The larger bundle is going to set you back $80. But like I said, it is cheaper than the previous iteration. And I think that that's probably because of, again, something we're going to talk about later, the Battlegrounds perks are included in the Mega Bundle, but have been taken out of the Tavern Pass or Tavern Ticket. I can't even remember what it was previously called, but the thing that used to give you arena tickets alongside Battlegrounds perks that was rolled into the previous bundle.
The Tavern Pass, yeah.
It was the Tavern Pass, which is, which is, it's still called the Tavern Pass, but it's something different now. So those Battlegrounds perks have been taken out of that bundle and now are available just in the Mega Bundle. And I think will be on the store as well after the pre-purchase is over. But the other crazy thing that just kind of slid in there in this announcement is that we're going to get mini expansions of 35 cards with every expansion going forward that are going to be craftable and in card packs, not an adventure. We just are getting 35 extra cards halfway through the expansion going forward now. Which, like,
that was
like a one-liner. Like, oh, by the way.
Yeah. The theme of this announcement was, like, we got the teaser with the big things, but all of the details were also super important.
Ugh.
And they're casually increasing set size by adding adventures, except you don't have to do your card chores every week.
Yes.
They just put more cards in the packs. And I would not be surprised if there was a $20 bundle in the middle of the expansion that just gives you only cards from the mini set or something like that. And 35 cards guaranteed to be added to every expansion going forward in the middle of the set instead of waiting on the balance changes that are always large in the middle of the set. It's cool and interesting, and also it's going to lead to some very large standard formats unless the changes to Haiti, unless the changes to, you can edit that because I misread the thing. Unless the changes to classic reduce the size of standard.
Yeah, which I don't really think that they're going to do. And I'm kind of okay with that because the larger the standard format is, I usually find myself enjoying the meta the most at the end of an expansion because there's so many cards to play, not an expansion, at the end of a standard year, because there's so many options, there's so many cards, we have so many things that we can possibly do that it basically gives me a lot more variety, not only in the decks that I'm able to play, but in the things that are built, the metas that are figured out. And if we're going to shake it up again with all of these like mini expansions and like buffs and nerfs and craziness, then, you know, the more changes, even like the more options you have. So, I mean, I'm just down for more cards and more deck building opportunities within the format. So yeah, I hope they don't shrink things down, but you're right. Like the basic classic set is a place that they could absolutely do that. So we'll have to see. But so we're going to be getting 135 cards with every base expansion and then 35 cards on top of that for a total of 170 cards within each expansion. And these 35 mini card sets is going to start with the Madness of the Darkmoon Faire expansion. So we can expect a mini expansion sometime early 2020 or 2021. 2020 is like over already, apparently. So
except it's still March.
Yeah, it's just all over the map. So that's basically everything about the new expansion that we learned today. Again, it's called Madness at the Darkmoon Faire, and the pre-purchase is live now if you would like to. And the reason that you might like to purchase the expansion is because those pre-orders come with access to the new game mode called Hearthstone. You can subscribe to The Angry Chicken on all your favorite podcast apps like Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss another Angry Chicken video.